Welcome to the Nonfiction Writers, podcasting in a great way. I'm Ryan Aber, joined by Jason Kersey. Jason, it's been a while, a few weeks, but we're going to get back on a regular schedule here, even with our various vacations, but leading into practice beginning here in, it's not too far away.
Yeah, less than 2 months, I think, till practice starts. Kind of crazy.
No kidding. It goes by fast. But today we're going to start a series looking at OU's roster position by position. And, of course, when you do a series like this, the first one that comes up most years, and certainly this year, is the quarterback position. So that's where we'll start at quarterback, where the field has changed a little bit since the last time we were together.
Yeah, Justice Hansen left. I guess we hadn't podcasted since Justice Hansen announced he was leaving. A redshirt freshman from Edmond, who I've said many times on this podcast not to rule him out. Well,
now you can rule him out.
He's officially ruled out of the OU quarterback battle. But yeah, I mean it's obviously one of if not the story of the year. In turn, who's going to be the quarterback? It always matters. It's the most important position in football, arguably the most important position in sports, and OU is no different. I think the quarterback play is what's going to make or break this season, probably.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's much arguably about it. I guess you could go with a pitcher in baseball, but a pitching staff is pretty deep. You really only have one quarterback that's going to lead you for a season if things are going well for you.
Yeah, and what is it? I can't remember who it was that said if you have two quarterbacks, you have none.
Yeah,
something like that. Although that wasn't really true with like Chris Leak and Tim Tebow,
and it certainly wasn't true last year with Ohio State.
Right. Yeah. So whoever said that's not entirely true, but
yeah, but most of the time,
well, the difference, of course, with Ohio State was that they didn't plan on playing three quarterbacks.
Right. It just turned out they had three quarterbacks that could play and help them win a national championship.
And Tebow was so specialized that year that they won the national title. So I guess it's a little bit different, but yeah, this decision is going to be huge. It's going to loom large over the season, and obviously OU hopes that whoever they pick, whoever it ends up being, which I think we agree that it's probably going to be Baker Mayfield, they hope that is their only quarterback and that they don't have to go back to anybody else. But it'll be interesting to see. Trevor Knight surprised me before in one of these quarterback battles.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Trevor Knight a couple years ago beating out Blake Bell when I think everybody thought that Blake Bell was the heir apparent after Landry Jones left. But like you mentioned, it doesn't appear as if Trevor Knight is the favorite for this because of Trevor Knight's struggles last year. In the spring, Baker Mayfield had another really good spring, and coming off a year off, it looks like he's going to be the guy for the Sooners.
Yeah, there's to me there's very little doubt that he's in front right now. Obviously, things could change, but I think we'd all be pretty surprised if Baker Mayfield is not the quarterback. Cody Thomas seems like the pretty clear third guy. It just seems, even though there is this battle going on, it seems like there's a pretty clear pecking order here, at least at this point. And obviously in the spring game, I think Cody Thomas started the spring game, which I thought was just sort of Bob Stoops' way of being annoying. But Baker Mayfield, had the best spring game, even with his two interceptions.
Didn't throw an incomplete pass, I believe, or no, didn't throw one till the very end, right?
I don't remember that for sure. Most of his passes for the first two spring games were caught by somebody.
Yeah, but
were caught by somebody who plays for OU. Let's just put it that way.
That's a good way to put it. But you brought up interceptions. That's been the question about Baker Mayfield is the interceptions, the decision making. He struggled with that his freshman year at Texas Tech, but here it is 2 years later. He's had 2 years to grow, to mature. 2 years or a full year of playing on a scout team that had some pretty good components on it. I mean, heck, Baker Mayfield and Dorial Green Beckham. A lot of teams would have liked to have that at their quarterback number one wide receiver combo last year. OU had it on their scout team, but how much do you think he's able to get through that interception issue through what he's gone through the last year and a half, or is it something that he's going to have to get in game speed before he can start really figuring out that stuff?
Well, I think that's the thing. You said he's had this time to mature, and that's true, but he hasn't had that game experience to mature, and that can really make the difference. And you can obviously say that as a true freshman at Texas Tech, he was a true freshman. He was a walk-on. He was thrown into the fire, and it's remarkable he played as well as he did. But there were those concerns, and just judging from the spring game, that still might be an issue with him, that gunslinger mentality. And the other thing I would say, yeah, he was on the scout team going up against the first-team defense last year, but that was not a very good secondary that he was going up against. So, and he had Dorial Green Beckham. So how will he do when he doesn't have Dorial Green Beckham and he's going up against better secondaries than the one that OU had last year, which we can agree was pretty bad.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way to sugarcoat that, and we'll certainly get to the secondary a little bit. But looking at Baker Mayfield's log from his freshman year at Texas Tech, Baker Mayfield started 7 games as a true freshman walk-on, the first ever Power 5 conference freshman quarterback walk-on to begin the season. A pretty remarkable story. Had a fantastic 2 games to start. 780 yards combined passing, 7 touchdowns, no interceptions in his first 2 starts, but played in 6 more games after that, only threw 5 touchdowns and was intercepted 9 times.
Well, yeah, I mean, once they got past SMU and those teams, and Stephen F. Austin, things got a little bit tougher. But again, I mean, he still had flashes where he looked really good. I mean, to me, he's the best quarterback on the team, which is crazy that a former walk-on is going to end up probably being the starting quarterback over 2 guys who were pretty highly recruited. But I mean, that's the way it goes. I feel like we'd be remiss in this podcast if we didn't at least talk about the other guys.
Yeah, let's move on and talk about those guys. I think Trevor Knight is the guy that we need to move on to next. And Trevor Knight's a guy that I think a lot of Sooner fans had great expectations for entering last year after the Sugar Bowl performance. The Sugar Bowl performance that really was carried by his arm and not his feet, which is where he had success really before that. But just everything seemed to fall apart from him. We talked about decision-making with Baker Mayfield, but Trevor Knight really, really struggled in putting the ball in the right place at critical times last year. Yeah,
I mean, there were times when he looked pretty good. The first couple of games of the year, he was solid, but he wasn't great. And even in some of the, I remember in the Kansas State game that they lost, he actually played really well in that game, but he made one really bad throw that was returned for touchdown, and that ended up being the difference. And obviously Michael Honeycutt's missed field goals were a difference too, but Trevor Knight still has it. I mean, he's still got that talent. You know that it's there. He just has trouble. He telegraphs passes a lot, and he threw in the 4 OU losses last year that he started. He threw either a pick 6 or, in the case of the Baylor game, what was virtually a pick 6 because they returned it to the 1-yard line and then scored on the next play. So that's a major concern, and I would be shocked if he ends up coming back and being the starter and being able to achieve that level of play that he had against Alabama. That was a weird night, and it's even weirder when you look at what happened last year with both Alabama and OU, with the 2 different directions they went off of that game. So yeah, I mean, I don't see I don't see how he could get the job back and be, as spectacular as I think we thought he was going to be. Now, I could be wrong. I thought he was going to be great last year, and I turned out to be wrong. So who the heck knows really what's going to happen. But to me, it's going to be hard for him to ever regain that sort of level, at least at OU.
Yeah, I'm absolutely with you there. I think it's just going to be tough for him, having never shown the ability to string 3 or 4 really good games together, to be consistent, and I don't think that that's coming from him at OU, at least. Now, the third guy I think is intriguing. You've brought up Justice Hansen before in our podcast, said don't count out him. I've sort of been the guy that said, don't sleep on Cody Thomas, because I really like to see what he has with what he looks like with the full wide receiver complement, and that he didn't have last year when he replaced Trevor Knight at the end of the season when Trevor Knight was banged up. But it doesn't seem like, to me, to you, to most people, that there's any way that Cody Thomas wins this job, at least out of the gate.
And that's weird, because this offense you would think would be designed for somebody like Cody Thomas. He would seem to be the perfect of the three when you just look at their skills and what they were like in high school and all that. You would think Cody Thomas is clearly the guy that would be the starter. But yeah, he didn't have Sterling Shepard last year, and it is fair to say, and we should mention, that the wide receivers were really bad last year. They couldn't get open. They couldn't catch the ball. And that affected both Knight and Thomas. But Thomas didn't look very good last year at all when he had his shots. And, even in the Kansas game, and I know that was the game P. Ryan went off, and there was no reason to really go away from him. But even in that game, he didn't throw the ball.
Yeah, it was 3 of 13 in that game.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I actually thought that it was 3 of 13, but I didn't want to say it and be wrong.
3 of 13 for 39 yards.
I mean, really, you can't complete more than 3 of your 13 pass attempts against Kansas. So I'm just not sure. And maybe quitting baseball and focusing fully on football will help, although I don't know what difference that would have made during football season last year. So, yeah, I don't really see him emerging as the guy, at least not this year. Maybe in the future, but not this year.
Yeah, I'm with you absolutely on that. I think Cody Thomas is a guy that needs to continue to develop. I still think he can be an effective quarterback at this level, but certainly starting the year, I don't think I maybe think that OU starts with Baker Mayfield, Trevor Knight, Cody Thomas is the pecking order there. But if, say, Baker Mayfield wins the job, which we expect him to, something happens and he gets hurt, especially early in the season, I wonder if you don't go to Cody Thomas because of the potential upside there.
I don't know. I think they'd still go with Knight just because of his experience. And Knight was better than Thomas last year. Even as bad as Knight could look at times, he was. I mean, there's a reason why in that Clemson game, which was an absolute disaster from every possible way you look at it from the OU side, it was a complete
and utter disaster.
Complete unmitigated disaster. Even in that game, they didn't go to Cody Thomas. Even after Trevor Knight threw, I think, 2 first-quarter interceptions, one of them was returned for touchdown. They still didn't go to Cody Thomas, and that says a lot to me.
Yeah, hard to disagree with you there. So, but it'll be interesting to see what happens with Oklahoma's quarterback battle. I think no need to do a poll here. We made it pretty clear. We think the starter is going to be Baker Mayfield, but we'll find out a whole lot more here in a couple months when OU finally gets going. But that's all we have for today on the quarterback battle. We'll be back next week to talk about other positions starting on the offensive side. You can check us out every day at newsok.com and every morning in the Oklahoman for the best OU coverage anywhere.